My husband cheated with my best friend, but my best friend said she was forced into it. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, Ryan and I have always been seen as a perfect match by everyone. However, only I know that during the 2 years of our marriage, when I was just 2 months pregnant, I discovered his betrayal. At noon, I finished visiting the art exhibition and walked out of the gallery. Amid the bustling crowd, I immediately spotted the familiar Maybach parked by the roadside. When Ryan saw me come out, he hurriedly got out of the car and quickly walked toward me. He took the bag from my hand, his tone tinged with a hint of reproach. "Why did you come to the exhibition alone? There are so many people here, what if someone accidentally bumps into your belly? Didn't we agree that after a few days when I'm done with work, I'd come with you?" I smiled and shook my head, saying it was too stuffy at home and I wanted to go out for a walk. Ryan didn't say anything after hearing that, but his expression looked somewhat displeased. He only said that after the project was finished, he would make time to accompany me properly. But if I hadn't seen his chat history with another woman, I might have still comforted him considerately. Yet now, I only felt a wave of disgust. At noon, as usual, we went to that private restaurant, and Ryan ordered my favorite Hangzhou cuisine. I prefer light flavors, while Ryan likes stronger tastes. But since we got together, to accommodate me, Ryan often chooses restaurants with lighter flavors. Especially after I became pregnant, this has been even more so. I don't even remember the last time we had a meal together. Everyone who has seen Ryan and me says that Ryan spoils me endlessly. From food and clothing to all aspects of daily life, he takes care of me meticulously, always putting my preferences first. His business partner often joked that Ryan truly dotes on his lover. Seeing is believing, and today, seeing it for myself, it was indeed well-deserved praise. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. The human heart is a mystery, how can one see through it at a glance? When the dishes were served, Ryan, as usual, first picked out my favorite for me. I paused briefly, took a bite, and nodded in approval. Only then did he start eating, continuously offering me more food throughout the meal. After the meal, I was quite full, but Ryan barely touched his food. Later, he took a phone call and left the private room. I don't know when it started, but he began avoiding me when answering calls. Leaning back in my chair, I watched his retreating figure, a pang of sadness stirring in my heart. After dinner, Ryan insisted on seeing me home, even though he had to return to the office to handle matters that afternoon. I stood at the villa's entrance, watching him leave. Only after his car disappeared into the distance did I rush into the bathroom, where the confined space echoed with the sound of my vomiting. I emptied everything I had eaten at lunch. Outside the bathroom, Auntie was anxiously knocking on the door. "Madam, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" I opened the door, pretending to be calm. "It's nothing, Auntie, just morning sickness." "What should we do?" "Madam, do you want to go to the hospital?" "I'll call your husband," Auntie said anxiously as she reached for her phone. I covered my slightly aching lower abdomen, frowned, and felt like vomiting again. I endured the discomfort, reassured Auntie a few times, and then returned to the room. On the bedside table was a photo frame, showing the moment Ryan proposed to me at his graduation. Ryan and I have been childhood sweethearts. From high school to university graduation, we had been in love for 6 years. On the day of the graduation ceremony, Ryan proposed to me in front of the teachers and classmates. He knelt down on one knee in the middle of candles arranged in the shape of a heart. Closest to me was my best friend Vivian, who smiled as she looked at us. Around us were my university friends and classmates I had spent 4 years with, all cheering and urging me to say yes. Ryan held the flowers in his hand, looked into my eyes seriously, and said to me, "Marry me, Yvonne, I will make you happy." I believed him without a doubt. Moved to tears, I let him put the engagement ring on me. Vivian took this photo of us capturing our happiness. This photo was carefully placed in a frame. After we got married, it has always been on the bedside table in the bedroom shared by Ryan and me. At night, Ryan's car was parked downstairs. I heard the noise but pretended to be asleep. After learning about his affair, I didn't want to, nor did I know how to face this man who had been with me for 8 years. After Ryan went upstairs and saw that I was asleep, he didn't disturb me. He went straight to the bathroom to take a shower, not forgetting to bring his phone with him. I recalled the night I discovered Ryan's affair. He went into the bathroom, and the phone placed by the bed suddenly lit up. I usually don't pay attention to his work, but that night it was already late. I worried that there might be an urgent matter at the company that needed his attention, so I couldn't help but unlock his phone. However, as I looked at the phone screen, a chill ran through my body. The chat window showed that familiar avatar, but the words spoken felt strange to me. I've been married to her for 2 years, and I'm already tired of her always being so obedient. The one I love is you. If it weren't for my mom's insistence on stopping me back then, how could I have been with her? Baby, you have to believe me. Once she gives birth to the child, I'll divorce her. I read through their chat messages word by word, roughly scrolling a few times, but it seemed like there was no end. When Ryan and I were choosing a wedding dress, he glanced at me, said it looked good, then lowered his head and asked her if she had gotten up. When I sat across from Ryan having a meal, after he served me some food, he would secretly order for her and remind her to eat. When Ryan spent Valentine's Day with me, after watching the fireworks show, he went to wash his hands and asked her if she liked the gift he had chosen. In countless moments spent with him, she was present in every instant. I heard Ryan finish blow-drying his hair and step out of the bathroom, stopping by my bed. I didn't know if he noticed I was pretending to be asleep. The next second, Ryan's phone rang. I heard that familiar ringtone and bit my palm hard with my nails. I didn't know if he was afraid of waking me or anxious to answer the call. Ryan quickly walked toward the balcony and casually closed the balcony door behind him. I slowly opened my eyes and looked toward the balcony. Then I got out of bed without putting on shoes. I stepped onto the soft wool carpet and slowly approached the balcony step by step. Through the balcony door, I watched Ryan's back. His voice was a little muffled. Baby, I miss you. How about tomorrow? It's too late now, she'll get suspicious. Then wait for me. After Ryan hung up, he turned around and saw me through the door. His expression stiffened. I pretended to have just woken up, opened the balcony door, and casually slipped into his arms. Why didn't you wake me when you came back? I said, yawning and rubbing my eyes. Ryan saw me as usual and sighed with relief. Isn't it because you're afraid of being woken up? He looked down at my bare feet and started scolding me again. Why didn't you wear shoes when you got up? What if you catch a cold and get sick? Listening to his caring words, my nose tingled, and I just felt disheartened. After returning to bed, Ryan came over to me, crouched down, and touched my face, then placed his hand on my belly. I felt this warmth that made me so attached, looking into his eyes. But Ryan looked away, avoiding eye contact. I asked, "What's wrong?" Ryan pretended to complain, "There's something going on at the company. They just called and asked me to go back for a bit." "I don't want to go, I want to stay home and spend more time with you and the baby." I looked at his hypocritical expression and felt disgusted inside. Still, I smiled and said, "The company's matters are important, go quickly." I heard the front door close, then a sharp pain hit my lower abdomen. I ran to the bathroom and vomited again. I sat dazed on the bed, lost in thought, until my phone rang twice. I picked it up and saw the photo I had received. It was sent by the private detective. As I expected, Ryan hadn't gone to the company. The photo showed his car parked under a residential building. A woman was standing by the car, seemingly there to pick him up. Under the streetlight, Ryan took off his jacket and draped it over the thin shoulders of the woman beside him. Scrolling down, there were photos of him and the woman going upstairs together. I returned to the chat window, typed a few words in reply, then threw down the phone and lay back down. The result was not surprising. Although the figures in the photo were somewhat blurry, I still recognized the woman in the picture. She was Vivian, my longtime friend since middle school. Vivian was a friend I met in middle school. I was a quiet person by nature, always reading alone under a tree during gym class. Few people ever came to disturb me. One day, Vivian suddenly burst into my world. She has a lively personality, yet she insists on staying by my side, this taciturn me. Thus, we became friends for so many years. These two people I know best somehow came together in a place I was unaware of. Although I should have accepted this fact long ago when I saw the messages on Ryan's phone, I still held on to a faint hope in my heart. It wasn't until I saw the intimacy between the two in the photo with my own eyes that the last shred of my hope was shattered. I felt a wave of dizziness and silently thought to myself that perhaps this was just an illusory dream. With such thoughts, I slowly drifted into sleep. In the dream, I seemed to return to the high school days I spent with Ryan, those days when we went to and from school together every day. 17-year-old Ryan, dressed in a blue and white school uniform, shyly confessed to me a purity I still cannot forget. I still remember when he made a three-point shot on the playground and turned to wave at me, that carefree and exuberant youthful spirit washing over me. When I suddenly experienced discomfort from my period, Ryan, upon learning of it, blushed as he brought me hot water with ginger tea. That thoughtful care warmed my heart. All of this is a beautiful memory from when we were 17. However, the latter half of the dream took a dramatic turn. I noticed that in the direction Ryan waved on the playground, besides me, there was Vivian behind me with a beaming smile, a detail I had never paid attention to before. It turned out that Ryan had borrowed that cup of ginger tea from Vivian. Vivian's teasing made Ryan blush, and after casting her an awkward glance, he walked away. The end of the dream was the scene of Ryan proposing to me at the graduation ceremony. With tears in my eyes, I watched Ryan put the ring on my finger, surrounded by lively cheers. Ryan tilted his head to kiss me, but his eyes silently met Vivian's behind me for a brief moment. I woke up from the dream but didn't open my eyes, letting a tear quietly fall. When I received a call from my mother in the studio, I put down my brush and was suddenly fully awake. In just a week, it would be my 25th birthday. My mother's gentle voice on the phone made my nose sting with emotion. After hanging up, I stared blankly out the studio window. Birthdays at home used to be carefully prepared by my parents. Although there weren't many people, the atmosphere was always warm and lively. Every time, it made me have a happy birthday. After marrying Ryan, he took over the preparations for my birthday. That time, he hosted a birthday party for me and invited many guests who had business dealings with both our families. Both my family and Ryan's family are well known and respected in the local community. As the only daughter of my family, my birthday party naturally attracted a lot of attention. I have never liked crowded occasions, but Ryan said this was his way of showing how much he valued me, wanting everyone to witness the birthday of his little princess. At the time, I just felt full of happiness. Looking back now, perhaps it was also a way to pave the way for his fledgling career. I waited in the bedroom for Ryan to come out, wanting to bring up the birthday matter. Ryan was momentarily stunned but quickly masked his emotions and came over to hug me. I was going to talk to you about this, but I've been too busy lately and haven't had the time. Baby, being pregnant is so hard on you, so this birthday party has to be a big one. I stroked his head and was silent for a long time before speaking. Ryan, I don't like crowds. Let's just have a meal at home with my parents and theirs, okay? Ryan naturally wrapped his arm around me and said, that won't do. Others might think that after marrying you, I wouldn't treat you well. Your birthday should still be celebrated in style. I lowered my head without a word. On my birthday, I linked arms with Ryan, wearing a white long dress as we appeared in the banquet hall. Passers-by all sent me birthday wishes and praised the love between Ryan and me as a married couple. I smiled and nodded, but inside, I felt numb. Until I saw Vivian gracefully walking over in a purple mermaid dress. Yvonne, long time no see. I bit my nails into my palm, barely managing to keep my expression, forcing out a smile. Long time no see, Vivian. Why haven't you replied to my messages lately? Vivian looked at me reproachfully, then seemed to casually glance at Ryan beside me. Since I got pregnant, I rarely touch my phone, afraid of radiation. I lowered my head and touched my belly, putting on a shy look. Vivian had long known about my pregnancy, but at this moment, she pretended to be surprised. Pregnant? Then congratulations to you both. She then raised the champagne in her hand toward Ryan, signaling, pregnant women can't drink, so I'll toast with you. Vivian's fingers discreetly brushed against the back of Ryan's hand twice. I felt the man beside me tense up for a moment, but he pretended as if nothing had happened and clinked glasses with Vivian. Finally, Vivian smiled at us and then left. After so many years of friendship, not even a simple happy birthday was said. After a while, guessing it was time to cut the cake, I prepared to step outside. Passing by a room with the door slightly ajar, I heard Vivian's voice. Ryan, come find me tonight. Then Ryan's voice followed, maybe another day, today is her birthday, and I still have to go back and be with her. Vivian's coquettish voice was crisp and pleasant, yet it felt like a knife stabbing into my heart. No, you've been busy organizing her birthday for days, what's the point of going back to her? Come find me tonight. There's really no point with her. Ryan's voice grew lower and lower, until only the sound of water in the room remained. Through the crack in the door, I saw their figures. The hand I was leaning on the wall with was barely able to support the weight of my body. After the banquet ended and seeing my parents off, Ryan and I returned home. I sat on the sofa, watching Ryan in the kitchen pouring hot water for me. To be honest, when I witnessed Ryan's betrayal with my own eyes, I felt neither anger nor pain. Instead, there was an unusual calmness within me. I even calmly recalled the kindness Ryan showed me in his youth, those moments that once made me feel safe and happy. I compared the Ryan in those memories with the one before me, trying to find evidence that he still loved me. However, reality told me that both time and people change. Ryan was no longer the boy who loved me the most in my memories. The phone he threw on the sofa rang, and I glanced at it was Vivian's number. I casually placed the phone face down on the sofa. Hearing the noise, Ryan hurried out of the kitchen to take the call outside. When he came back, there was a hint of reluctance in his eyes as he looked at me. I didn't want to play along with his act anymore, so I remained silent. Ryan thought I was just tired and said directly, "Honey, there's a problem at the company. I need to go back and handle it. You finish your hot water and rest first. Don't wait for me." Watching his back as he picked up his clothes and prepared to leave, I wanted to do something to save our marriage and our child. In the end, I called out to him while he was changing his shoes. I walked up to him and straightened his suit. Holding his hand and placing it on my belly, I whispered, "Ryan, both the baby and I miss you so much. Could you please not go out tonight?" Ryan was clearly stunned and hesitated for a moment. But then his phone rang again. He apologized and hugged me, yet he still went out. Not long after, I received a new message on my phone. This time, the photo was even clearer. Perhaps because it was late at night and quiet, the scene of Ryan and Vivian kissing under the streetlight was captured in perfect detail. The photo even caught the moment they entered the door. I wiped the corner of my eye, feeling as if I had cried, but no tears fell. I suddenly remembered that when the heart truly hurts, tears just don't come. I can't even describe what that feeling is. Maybe it's a kind of death of the heart. I sat there until dawn, waiting for Ryan to come home, but he never did. The next day, Ryan came home late as usual. I deliberately sat in the spot where he had left the day before, waiting for him. When he came out from the entrance and saw me on the sofa, he was momentarily surprised. Then he naturally walked over, hugged me, stroked my hair, and spoke softly, "Why are you waiting for me here? You're not even wearing a jacket. You can't catch a cold, especially being pregnant." I pushed him away and pointed to the seat opposite me, inviting him to sit down. Let's talk, Ryan. He froze as he sat down. Ryan looked a bit helpless. Baby, did I do something wrong? Did I upset you? Was I too late coming home? Seeing him like this, my heart ached so much I could hardly breathe. The words barely escaped my lips as I turned my head away from him. You don't have to pretend anymore. I saw your chat history with her. Ryan was clearly stunned and asked hesitantly, Who? Vivian, I replied, unable to help but smile a little after saying it. She was my longtime friend, yet also the woman my husband cheated with a thorn in my heart. Thinking of this, I looked back at Ryan in front of me. That familiar face now felt so strange. Honey, listen to my explanation. There really was nothing between her and me, Ryan said anxiously. I wanted to laugh when I heard him, and I actually did. I saw you two kissing on my birthday. Actually, I didn't, I just heard their voices. At this moment, Ryan's heart was probably in complete disarray, and he didn't think much about how I saw it. He just wanted to cover up his wrongdoing. He knelt before me and reached for my hand. Honey, I really have no feelings for her. I was just momentarily blinded, and she was the one who made the first move. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice from trembling. Ryan, after all these years, I think you should know me better than anyone else. If you don't love me anymore, then let's separate. I don't want our marriage to end up so humiliating. Ryan's hand trembled slightly as he held mine. Honey, you can't bear to leave me. I just made a mistake in a moment of impulse. It won't happen again. I no longer wanted to hear these excuses, so I pulled my hand away and placed the divorce agreement in front of him. Expressionless, I said, Let's get a divorce, Ryan. Ryan withdrew his hand in a daze. Suddenly, it seemed he remembered something, a glimmer of light flashing in his eyes. I don't agree to divorce. We still have a child. For the sake of the child, please forgive me. I really love you, wife. Thinking of the child in my belly, my breath caught, and I was almost brought to tears. If he truly cared about our child, how could he have turned away without a second glance when I wanted to hold on to him? To stop him from lingering, I lied to Ryan, saying, I have already aborted the child. When Ryan heard this, his expression almost twisted, his eyes red as he stared at me. You aborted the child? How could you do that? That was our child. How could you bear to? I saw that he had lost control, so I placed the divorce agreement on the table. I stood up and walked out, picking up my phone to call the most recent contact. Just as the call connected, Ryan knocked the phone away, and he cornered me. My waist slammed heavily against the entryway cabinet, a sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen, and a warm flow surged out. He grabbed my face, but I seemed to feel no pain, calmly meeting his gaze. Ryan's eyes were bloodshot and dark as he stared at me, finally deflating and weakly crouching on the ground. I picked up the phone that was still in a call and said to the other end, Come pick me up. Ryan tried to stop me, and I calmly glanced at him. If you don't want me to expose these shameful things, then don't follow me. When I saw Ian by the roadside, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, then everything went black and I fainted. The last thing echoing in my mind was Ian's anxious voice. When I woke up, a blinding white light was before my eyes. I was in the hospital. Realizing something, I reached out and touched my lower abdomen. A dead silence. I closed my eyes and sat up. When Ian saw I was awake, he immediately looked at me nervously. Sister Yvonne, you should rest a little longer. I didn't look at him and asked, Is my child gone? Ian didn't answer directly, only saying, There will be children in the future, Sister Yvonne. Don't be too sad. Take care of your body first. The doctor said your body is still very weak. After hearing the words, there will be more children, I didn't listen to a single word that followed. A wave of dizziness swept over me. In fact, I had long known that this child couldn't be saved. I lied to Ryan, saying I was going to have an abortion, only because I had already decided not to keep the baby. I just never expected that in the end, it would be because of Ryan that I would lose it. During the last prenatal checkup, the doctor said my emotions had been too unstable lately and my body was weak. If I wasn't careful, the chances of miscarriage were very high. The early stages of pregnancy are when the fetus is most fragile, and at that time, I found out Ryan had cheated. How could I possibly take good care of the baby in my womb? That day, after I left, I called Ryan, but he didn't answer. When I got home that night, I found a woman's hair on his black suit, still carrying a sweet, cloying scent of perfume. I steadied myself and reached out my hand to Ian. "Phone." Ian said "oh," and handed me the phone. I contacted the family driver to pick me up, but who came were my parents and Ryan. "Ryan said you ran away from home in the middle of the night yesterday and wouldn't let him follow. It was so late, and you're pregnant. How dangerous." My mother's familiar nagging voice came to my ears again. I avoided Ryan, who wanted to help me, and let Ian take me to the car at home. Ryan was momentarily stunned before getting into his own car. After I got in, I closed my eyes. My parents saw this and didn't ask any more questions. When we got home, Ryan was reaching out again to help me as I stood by the car door. I simply sat there and didn't get out. My mom thought the standoff between us wasn't good, so she finally took care of me and let Ryan go in first. I originally wanted to avoid Ryan and go upstairs directly, but he wouldn't let me. He gestured for my mom to help me sit on the sofa. Thinking about the child in my belly, I expressionlessly thought, then let's just end it. Sitting on the sofa, my mom asked the housekeeper to pour me some water and hand me a blanket. I kept a cold face, and Ryan looked a bit awkward beside me. After a while, my mom finally sat down and asked, "What happened? Why did you go to the hospital? Are you feeling unwell? You have to be careful when you're pregnant." "The child is gone," I answered calmly. "What?" my parents said in unison, both shocked. How could a perfectly fine child be gone? What exactly happened yesterday? My dad's voice was already tinged with anger. I still showed no expression and looked at Ryan, who was a bit far from me, signaling him to speak. "Dad, please don't blame Yvonne, it's my fault. Yvonne has had some misunderstandings about me these days. She wouldn't listen to my explanations and argued with me, then secretly aborted the child behind my back," Ryan said cautiously. I almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. Maybe this is the art of speaking. After all, he has managed the company for 2 years and is no longer the naive young man he used to be. On the surface, he was taking the blame on himself, but every word implied that I was being unreasonable. My dad has always been straightforward and was about to get angry at me on the spot. Fortunately, I quickly took out the medical report from my coat and placed it on the table. My mom picked it up first, glanced at it, and exclaimed, "Yvonne, this says the fetal abnormality was caused by external trauma. What happened?" After reading it, she handed it to my dad, who was closer to me. After he read it, he slapped the report down on the table. "Ryan, look at this yourself." I looked coldly at Ryan's face as it turned from pale to white. The medical report clearly stated, patient suffered injury to the waist due to impact, causing fetal abnormality due to external trauma, resulting in a miscarriage. "This is impossible," she said. She had an abortion herself. Ryan looked incredulous, still wanting to argue. Unfortunately, no matter how well he understood the art of language, it couldn't be more powerful than proof in black and white. I took a sip of water and cleared my throat. "Dad, Mom, I have officially filed for divorce from Ryan." "I don't agree." Ryan's face darkened. I didn't look at him and went straight upstairs. My mom came up, brought me some soup, expressed a little concern, and cautiously asked, "Yvonne, what's going on between you and Ryan?" I shook my head and said nothing. "Yvonne, I know you've always been the most sensible one, rarely losing your temper with the Ryan family after all this time. Losing the baby must be heartbreaking, but you're still young, and you'll have children in the future. He has someone else." I interrupted my mom. "What happened?" Ryan isn't that kind of person, maybe it's a misunderstanding. I said nothing. My mom knew Vivian, and I didn't want to tell her about these sordid things. After she left, I leaned against the bed and cried out loud for the first time in days. My sobs echoed through the large room. Crying for the lover who has changed their heart, the unborn child, and the fragile feelings in marriage that cannot withstand temptation. I took off the ring on my hand that was no longer so bright. It was the engagement ring Ryan gave me when he proposed. Married for 2 years, even though after marriage I changed to a more exquisite and luxurious diamond ring, Ryan also bought me other rings during our marriage. Yet I always wore this low-key, simple ring. Simply because of what Ryan said to me when he proposed, "Yvonne, I will make you happy." When he knelt and looked at me with eyes full of love during the proposal, it was firm and sincere. That was real. But when he told Vivian, "Baby, I only love you," that was real too. I do not deny Ryan's kindness to me, nor that he once loved me. I can only blame that his love was spoken too easily, too briefly, and too cheaply. Ryan somehow managed to coax my parents into letting him in again. I had just finished painting a landscape and was washing my hands. He followed behind me. "Yvonne, do you want to take a break? Dinner will be ready soon." I avoided his attempt to drape a coat over me. Flicking the water droplets off my hand, I looked at him expressionlessly. Ryan's face stiffened, and he awkwardly withdrew his hand. "Ryan, I'm not falling for this anymore." In the past, he would always soften me with that expression, making me forgive his mistakes. But now, it no longer works on me. He is no longer the boy he used to be. He has become more cunning in coaxing me to forgive him. "Yvonne, I know I was wrong. Vivian and I have already broken up. Please forgive me this once. After all these years we've been together, can you really bear to let it go?" Ryan called out to me as I was about to go downstairs. Hearing his words, I stopped in my tracks. Perhaps Ryan thought he had moved me, so he spoke again. "Yvonne, we've been like childhood sweethearts since we were young. In high school, I tasted love for the first time, and the first person I loved was you. You've been with me from the days of school uniforms to now, when I am the president of the Ryan family. We've been through so much from dating to marriage. Can you really let it all go? Yes, we've been together for so long, yet the only one who still holds on to the original intention like at the beginning is me." But Ryan lost his way halfway. I turned around and looked him straight in the eyes. "Ryan, if I weren't the only daughter of the By family, if the By family couldn't help you become the head of the Ryan family in the family feud, would you still choose to marry me right after graduation?" Ryan didn't expect me to ask that question, and he was stunned. Because I love him. So I couldn't bear to suspect him with malice, nor could I make things difficult for him. He thought I didn't know, he thought I didn't care. Ryan's long silence said it all. I walked straight downstairs to eat. "Yvonne, you're down, have some soup first," my mom called me over. I didn't sit down but said to her, "Mom, don't let him come in anymore from now on." Ryan was coming downstairs and heard what I said next. "I will announce to the public that Ryan and I are divorced. Don't let him come here anymore." He said hoarsely, "Yvonne, do you really have the heart to do this?" I didn't answer, but my usually quiet dad spoke up. "Yvonne, arguing is one thing, but don't bring up divorce so easily. What could possibly make you want to take it that far? He has been in charge of our family for so long. His words carry the authority of someone in a higher position." Ryan seemed to feel he had a backing, then fanned the flames. "Dad, it's all my fault for not considering Yvonne's feelings and not taking good care of her. I will definitely ask Yvonne to forgive me." This instead made me seem like I was making an unreasonable fuss. I pulled out the photos taken by a private detective from my phone and placed them on the table. "Isn't this Ryan and Vivian?" My mom hesitated as she saw them. I nodded. "It's Vivian." "What exactly is going on?" my dad, still unaware that Ryan had someone else outside, urged. My mom looked at me with eyes full of pity and pain. I continued, he cheated during our marriage, lied repeatedly, and was with my best friend Vivian when I was cutting the cake at my birthday party. I asked him for a divorce, but he refused and even laid hands on me, which caused my child to miscarry. I have photos and videos of his affair with Vivian. If he keeps bothering me, I will expose everything. Ryan could no longer stay calm and came over to hold me. Yvonne, I couldn't resist temptation and made a mistake I shouldn't have. But we are husband and wife, please forgive me. We can have another child. I slowly and firmly bent back his fingers one by one. Before I could even speak, my parents couldn't stand it anymore and called others to drive Ryan out. During this period of resting at home, Dad reduced his workload and came home every day to have meals with us. Mom also experimented with different recipes with the housekeeper, hoping I would eat more and recover my health. After learning about Ryan's despicable actions, my dad was very angry. Recently, he caused quite a few troubles for Ryan in the company's business. I heard that many of Ryan's partners have stopped cooperating with him, and the Ryan family group has lost several major projects in a row. Ryan came to the door several times but was driven away by my parents each time. One day, I vaguely heard a commotion downstairs while I was upstairs. When I went out to see, it turned out Ryan was kneeling in front of my parents, his eyes red. I seemed to see the scene of the first time Ryan met my parents. He was so nervous that he practiced for several days on how to greet them. After meeting my parents, he solemnly told them that he would marry me after graduation. He promised to cherish me, love me, and treat me well for a lifetime. My parents were momentarily stunned. Ryan mistakenly thought my parents disapproved. He immediately knelt down and begged them, "Uncle, Auntie, I am sincere about Yvonne. I will spend my whole life proving my love for her." In my memory, Ryan's figure overlapped with the person downstairs. But what he said was completely different from before. "Mom, Dad, please let me see Yvonne just once. You have seen how good I have been to her all these years. It was just a momentary mistake. Why must you utterly destroy the Ryan family business? It hasn't been easy for me to get this far. Can't you give me one more chance to repent?" I didn't want to listen anymore and turned away. After resting quietly at home for a month, my parents finally agreed to let me go out once. I went to the gallery. Upon entering, I saw Ian introducing the paintings hanging on the wall to others. Ian is the person in charge of the gallery, and I have known him for 3 years. I explained to Ian what had happened that day. It had been a long time since we last met, and Ian and I were planning to have lunch together. When we got downstairs, he opened the car door for me just as I was about to get in. Suddenly, a pair of hands grabbed me. "Yvonne." It was Ryan. Ian tried to stop him, but he couldn't. I signaled to Ian not to bother. I didn't want to deal with Ryan, but he was forceful. I had no choice but to stand by the roadside. We hadn't seen each other for over a month. Although Ryan was dressed decently, the stubble on his face and the dark circles under his eyes revealed that he hadn't been doing well during this time. "Yvonne, can I talk to you?" "Just for a moment." Ryan's tone was somewhat cautious, as if afraid I would refuse. "If you have something to say, say it here." "I have things to do later," I declined. That look of grievance had fooled me for 2 years, but I no longer believed it. People passed by on the street as Ryan held on to me. "Yvonne, please forgive me, come home with me. Let's not get a divorce, okay?" "Forgive what? How can I forgive you if you don't make things clear?" Ryan steeled himself and, regardless of whether passers-by would discover he was the president of the Ryan family, only wanted to hold me back. "I've already cut ties with her, I won't contact her anymore." "Is that so?" I said calmly, but my gaze shifted to Vivian, who had appeared behind him at some unknown moment. "Are you trying to keep me, or are you trying to save the future of the Ryan family group?" Ryan should know the answer. Vivian stood there silently, and I spoke to remind the stunned Ryan. "Ryan's little lover has arrived, so I won't disturb you any longer." Ryan turned around and saw Vivian, immediately stepping back to put distance between them, as if distancing himself from a virus. "Yvonne, I really don't know why she showed up here." Vivian's face was pale as she glared at Ryan. Seeing that I was really about to leave, Ryan stopped me. "Wife, I beg you, I was just playing around with her, I really can't do without you." I turned my head and gave Vivian, whose expression was not very good, a smile. "Ryan and I are already divorced. Now I'm just waiting for good news from you too." After getting in the car, I saw Vivian grab Ryan, and the two seemed to be arguing. However, I no longer cared. Recently, I had been busy preparing for the new art exhibition opening next month. It was only after Ian reminded me that I remembered to eat. I was scrolling through my phone when I came across a trending news story. The president of the Ryan family group attended a banquet with a female companion, sparking rumors of a possible breakup with his original partner. Since graduating, Ryan took over the family business and has become somewhat of a public figure. But the media rarely reports on him, and that's because of a minor celebrity from 2 years ago. At that time, Ryan had just recently taken office. That celebrity, knowing Ryan was young, unmarried, and only had a fiancé who rarely appeared in public, set her sights on him. At the banquet, she deliberately brushed against Ryan and even hired paparazzi to capture photos of her helping Ryan into a car. After I saw the news, I didn't say anything, but Ryan got furious. In the end, he sent legal letters to the relevant media. That minor celebrity was also blacklisted in the industry. Everyone who knows about this says Ryan's dedication to his fiancée is truly extreme. I expressionlessly swiped past the news. Ryan's ability to silence the media is getting more and more impressive. The news of my divorce from him has not been reported to this day. On the first day of the art exhibition, while discussing matters with Ian, I turned around and saw Ryan. I explained briefly to Ian and found a corner to stand face to face with Ryan. Ryan looked exhausted, his voice low as he called me, Yvonne. My father, in his capacity as chairman of the family business group, publicly announced that I had divorced Ryan. In recent days, rumors have been spread within the industry, seemingly targeting his company. Judging by his frazzled appearance, it probably isn't an act. "Yvonne, can we go back? What do you think?" I retorted. We both knew the answer in our hearts. A crumpled piece of paper, no matter how much you try to smooth it out, can never return to its original state. Ryan looked at me with a complicated gaze, one filled with regret, self-blame, and unwillingness. I looked out the window, my thoughts drifting back to the image of him in high school, wearing his basketball jersey, sunny and handsome, a stark contrast to the man before me now, dressed in a suit and looking somewhat mature. "Ryan, I believe you once truly loved me, and so did I. It is precisely because of this that I cannot accept the person you are now. Because I have seen you with your heart and eyes filled only with me, I cannot accept this incomplete love. Moreover, the current you loves yourself more, and your company." Ryan's voice trembled slightly as he responded in despair, "Yvonne, I have wronged you and our child." He hung his head helplessly, and I noticed tears welling up at the corners of his eyes. The love we once had was sincere, and the regret now is real as well. However, fleeting moments of happiness can never piece together eternal bliss. I sat in the cafe we had agreed upon, looking at the message Vivian sent on my phone, "Let's meet and talk." Vivian sat down opposite me. We hadn't seen each other for over a month, and her face looked somewhat haggard and tired. From her words, I learned that her relationship with Ryan did not start as early as I had imagined, but rather shortly after Ryan and I got engaged. It was she who took the initiative to approach Ryan. She told me about her family background, which surprised me. It turned out that Vivian was an illegitimate child. After her father's first wife passed away, her mother brought her into the current family, which allowed her to attend the same international school as I did. Vivian's family was ordinary, but her father Paul was exceptionally unfaithful. Vivian had several half-brothers. When she reached marriageable age, Paul wanted to marry her off to an older, bald business partner. Vivian was powerless to resist, and leaving her family would not guarantee a better life. In the end, she followed her mother's advice and approached my fiancé Ryan, hoping to use his influence to escape from her family. However, Ryan eventually married me. Vivian looked out the window, reminiscing. When I first entered high school, I was a new face, and the circles of those rich second-generation kids were very exclusive. I could only try to please them. Later, I noticed you were different. You didn't have to please anyone. Just sitting there, everyone showed you kindness. My mom told me that you are the only daughter in your family, the family that controls half the local territory. I listened to my mom and got close to you so I wouldn't have to please others anymore. I recalled the hidden scars she carried in high school, things she had never told me before. I put down my coffee cup and looked at her. No matter what your intentions were, as a friend all these years, I have always been sincere with you. But you never mentioned anything about the Vivian family. Vivian covered her face and began to cry. How could I not want to tell you? I was locked in a room by Paul, with no electronic devices. At night, after Paul went out, he came back drunk and promised to let me out, but as soon as he opened the door, my father ignored me. I even thought about dying, but I wanted to live to take revenge more. I wanted to use Ryan's hand to take revenge for me. Paul is Vivian's half-brother, sharing the same father, who disappeared unexpectedly 6 months ago. I never imagined the truth would be like this, and for a moment, I was left speechless. I didn't expect him to lay a hand on you and cause you to have a miscarriage. It's right for you to divorce him, Vivian said. Perhaps this child was meant to shield me from disaster, but our fate was too shallow. Vivian handed me a USB drive. Inside are the evidences of Ryan's crimes, including mine. Whether you use them or not is up to you. At the time, I just wanted revenge. Now that the revenge is done, it has destroyed your family. I don't expect you to forgive me, I only hope you can live well from now on. I didn't take the USB drive. Although I couldn't forgive them, I wasn't willing to personally send them to prison. 6 months later, after finishing my exhibition abroad, I returned home, and Ian was still the one to pick me up. On the way, he told me that Ryan's family was currently facing asset liquidation. It turned out that Ryan's mistress had surrendered to the police a week ago and accused him of being an accomplice, causing the stock of Ryan's family group to plummet. Now, the Ryan family was in complete chaos. I didn't understand why Vivian suddenly decided to turn herself in until I later found out the reason. Vivian's family company ran into trouble, and her father once again had the idea of arranging a marriage for her. This time, Vivian refused to tolerate it any longer and reported her own company for tax evasion under her real name. Ryan took the opportunity to strike while she was down, trying to get Vivian sent to prison as well. Unexpectedly, Vivian was determined to take someone down with her, even if it meant death, and she brought out the evidence of the two of them killing Paul years ago. I couldn't help but sigh, thinking that the two who were once inseparable ended up in such a deadly conflict. Perhaps, with the passage of time, feelings are just that fragile and vulnerable. I don't know who is more tragic in this story: Paul, who died, Vivian, who was violated, or Ryan, who was about to be thrown behind bars. Compared to them, my marriage ended rather fortunately. Sister Yvonne, the media for the interview has arrived. Ian knocked on my door. These past 2 years, my career has been smooth sailing, and after holding my own exhibitions at home and abroad, my reputation has soared, making me a rising painter in the country. Today, the magazine media came to do a special interview with me. I smiled and stepped out of the room to face the camera. Hello everyone, I am the painter Yvonne.